What up, you guys? Slim here at TeamPurplepanda. Here to discuss something in this game that I think I've needed to touch upon for a long time now. And, the idea was actually just sent to me. So shout out to MPZ96 is for you. We're going to talk about consistency in this game. Because, a lot of people have been wondering, why does so many decks, do so well while, other decks kind of fall by the wayside? And one of the big factors in this game, and pretty much all in all of Yu-Gi-Oh, is that you need to have consistency in your deck, no matter what the deck is. You can't have, pieces of one deck here, pieces of another here, and try to put them together because they're honestly not going to work. So we're going to talk about, a couple cards. I'm going to go through like my two main decks to show you guys like what gives me consistency. And just give you ideas about why certain cards are run over other cards, and why this consistency factor helps the deck so much. So if we talk about like some of the top decks right now, like the top deck being Tengu Plants, they don't run Pot of Duality, but they do go through Lone Fire, they go through Tengu. And what makes them so consistent is that yes, you're summoning a monster, tributing off another one to get another monster. In the process, you're thinning your deck. Okay, so you start with a 40 card deck. Okay, you draw 5 cards, you draw your last card. That's 6 cards. Your deck is approximately 34 depending on what you run. If you run a 40 card deck, it's at 34. If you run a 41 card deck, it's at it's at 35, and so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, the best way to up your consistency is to thin your deck. Decks that were really consistent because they thinned their decks, or examples are like Lightsworn, because they would mill the shit out of their deck and literally like go through half their deck and then just recycle with Beckoning Light or Monster Reincarnation. Just do some crazy stuff, and that's what made decks like that really consistent. Plants are consistent because they have the mill factor, they have the tribute summon factor, they have all of those factors, factored in, I guess you want to say, into how the deck works. And, plants especially because with Card Trooper to mill, to draw a card, you're not only thinning your deck, but you're drawing a card which further thins your deck. That's really good. That's why the deck's so consistent. Plus, Tengu being searched through the deck helps thin it out. Raikou Mills, there's so many reasons why that deck is so consistent. So that's just a couple basics. When it comes to other decks, like Six Samurai, they're extremely consistent because of, they have Triple United to increase their draw power. They have Gateway to search out their monsters. They have Smoke Signal to search out their monsters. They got Rhoda. There's so many things. That deck thins out so quickly, it's like not even funny. And that's why decks like that are so consistent and really good. For other decks, though, like those are just the basics on some of the top decks. It's because they have a strong search factor and a way to thin the deck so that you get to exactly what you need. So for myself, I decided, to take aside, my Gravekeepers and my Fish OTK and tell you guys why, like cards are ran that up the consistency and why they're so good. Because I know a lot of people have been asking, I did do the GK profile, I did do, the Fish profile a while back. Why are those decks so consistent? Like why do they draw so well? And I'll tell you like some of the main factors. So we'll start with Gravekeeper. So I don't have them in the deck right now, but when they're reprinted, Pot of Duality is amazing. It ups your consistency so much because you play it. I mean, it's only a 1-for-1, but it lets you choose. What you really paid for when Pot of Duality was worth, like $130, $140, was that you paid for options. You're not only getting one option like you do like if you activate Upstart, you're getting to look at 3 cards and pick the one that is best suited for your current situation, and that's why it added so much consistency to the deck, because you could pill through your deck, get what you need, set up, and be ready for the next turn. That's what makes a deck consistent, is that you can draw through your deck to get what you need and be able to set up for pretty much any turn. Other cards in Gravekeepers that make them really consistent, if it's not that stuff, basically you run you run the basics. You run Commandant because, I mean, Commandant is Commandant. I've already talked about, how Commandant is strong enough, but ditching Commandant searches your deck, further thinning your deck to get Necro Valley. So you've already thinned your deck, 1 card from your hand, 1 card from your deck, and it works really nicely. Another card that thins the deck is Recruiter, because when Recruiter leaves the field, as long as you control it, goes to the graveyard, you search your deck again. So you're constantly picking up your deck and, searching through it to get something you need. And if you search, Recruiter for another recruiter, you're just going to continue this cycle. And then people are wondering, is that consistency? Yes, that's consistency because you're pilling through your deck, which is important, and by doing that, you increase your chances of drawing what you need. And then people are wondering, well, what do you do, once you've pilled through your stuff? Gravekeepers have Gravekeeper Steal. All you do is you play Steal, you get your monsters back. So not only have you used them, but you get to reuse them to further thin out the deck. That's why decks like Gravekeeper and decks like Samurai, they're so consistent because they can reuse their stuff. It's reusable stuff that really makes consistency a big factor in this game. That's why plants are so good with Pot of Avarice, and that's why Gravekeepers, like I mentioned, are good with Steal and with all the setups that you do. And you know what it is that decks like that just, they up consistency. With Hyper Librarian, your consistency is through the roof because you're constantly synchroing, so you draw till you get what you need. And on that note, like in the fish deck, people are wondering, where's the consistency in that deck? It's in the monster lineup. You run the swap frogs, to pitch, to mill, to thin out your deck. So the monster lineup thins out the deck by itself. Gold Sark can search out Qualicant when you need it. But the main draw engine of the deck is Moray of Greed, because you run all water monsters, except Level Leader, Hand Destruction to drop 2, draw 2, and Upstart Goblin. You don't care about life points because you're trying to Triss spam your opponent. So you're constantly searching throughout the deck. And in certain turns you can go through like most of the deck. Like the deck's only 40 cards, so like if you shuffle like I'll do right now, like I'll shuffle, I'll give you guys some examples. So if we don't draw FTK, okay, so we open like this, alright. That's okay, if people can see that. We open double swap frog, upstart, gold sark, fishborg, and we're going to draw a card. We drew another fishborg, okay. So basically we can upstart, draw, we get dupe frog. Okay, that's not that great. You can't FTK this turn. But what you can do is you can ditch a fishborg, summon swap frog, activate swap frog, get treeborn in the grave, and you've already thinned your deck out right there. So you've already started to, pill through your deck so that you get what you need. Now, what's interesting with this hand is that we can do it again because of the fact we got, double Fishborg and stuff. I wouldn't. I would just set Dupe Frog and end my turn and then let my opponent, run into Dupe Frog. So when they run into Dupe Frog, I draw, and I actually drew Qualicant. Now, Treeborn would come back, and then I have to decide at that point, what am I going to do? Well, I'll tell you guys right now, I have FTK. Because if they don't have back row, I have FTK. All I have to do is ditch a card for Fishborg, get Fishborg back. The reason why I'm getting Fishborg back is because if they affect Veiler, I can just tribute Fishborg. So Fishborg's on the field right now. What I do now is tribute Dupe Frog and Treeborn for Qualicant. And then I activate Qualicant's effect and, go off like I showed you guys in the video. That's why, when it comes to consistency, this deck, if it draws bad, you can get out of the situation, and that's why consistency is so important. So it basically shows you guys in under a minute how you can FTK with a fish, even if you don't open that well. Because I know a lot of people have been asking. Like I said, when September rolls around, I see this deck being destroyed because I'm positive Deloran's going to go back to 2 because Deloran and Symbols of Heritage are too broken together. So, but that's just to show you guys what I meant. And then, the same rules apply with Gravekeeper. You search Necro Valley, thin out your deck, Recruiter thins out the deck, Steel brings them back, and you just rinse and repeat. And that's why the deck's so good. A lot of people hate the deck because they say it's autopilot. Yeah, it's autopilot, but it works really well, and that's why it's consistent. Consistency works. If we talk about other decks like Agents are ridiculously consistent. You've got Master of Earth, Agent of Earth, summons, searches. You have cards from the sky, which lets you draw 2. You have Pot of Duality, which lets you search through your deck. There's so many ways. Christia comes out, gets you back a recycled fairy. That's so good and so consistent. How could you not run a deck that's consistent like that? GBs are consistent because, they constantly are recycling and, they rely on their back rows. They don't waste their field like a lot of decks do. So pretty much every deck out there has the potential to have consistency if you put the consistency factor in. And that's the difference between why decks work and why some decks work, some decks don't. Like X-Sabers work really well. They're consistent with, Dark Soul. Dark Soul adds to their consistency, and then their ability to summon, Bogart Knight, Fulhelm Knight, you do all of that. Godam Z-Call adds to consistency. And, that's like one of the big factors in this game right now is you need to be consistent in this game. If you're not consistent, you're not going to do well. And I'm telling you, you'll lose to a deck that has consistency. Like, people ask me, why haven't I been playing Fish? It's because I know that the deck is going to die as soon as September rolls around. And, I don't have my Librarian yet, so it's like, there's kind of no point. Plus, unless they leave DeLorean alone, it's going to be really hard. Like, I've tried the deck without Hyper Librarian, and it does work. It's just a lot more complicated, but you can't run the deck without DeLorean. It doesn't work without DeLorean. I mean, you can do the Red Nova Gungear play, but it's not as good as Trish spamming your opponent. So if DeLorean does go back to 2, which it probably will in September, that deck will be gone and I'll scrap it. But till then, we can still have fun with it. But that's basically it, you guys. I was really glad to actually make this video on consistency because I know it's a really important topic about something in this game that people really need to know about, and it's all about what you do to your deck that's really going to change, up your consistency factor. So please leave me your feedback. I mean, I really took my time on this video. It's like over 10 minutes just so I could explain to you guys exactly what consistency is and why you need it in your deck. Every deck has a consistency factor, you just have to find it, and that's honestly, like, that's Yu-Gi-Oh, you guys. Like, you need consistency, you'll find it, like, on your own. You'll figure out what adds to your consistency. Every deck type has a draw card or a consistency factor. You just have to find it. So that's all I gotta say, you guys. Leave me your comments below. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I hope this helps people out because it's one of these videos that I think anyone can benefit from. So I really hope to get a lot of views on this. If you've ever had a consistency problem, please watch this video. It'll explain a lot for you. That's all I gotta say, you guys. Like I said, things that search through your deck, cards that add cards to your hand, draw, everything will add to your consistency. I'm telling you, your games will go a lot smoother and you'll be a lot happier. So that's all I got to say, you guys. Please continue to rate, comment, subscribe, work on your consistency factor, and thank you for watching.